I believe that everybody's advantage right now is being human. Human is the competitive advantage.
Hello and welcome to episode 168 of the Smart Agents Podcast. As always, my name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. In today's episode, we are joined by Bryan Kramer, renowned business strategist, global keynote speaker, executive trainer, and two-time best-selling author. Known for his talks on human-to-human businesses, Bryan shares how entrepreneurs can focus on simplifying communication, displaying empathy, and celebrating their imperfections to build a stronger connection with their client base. Throughout our conversation, Bryan shares how real estate agents can stand out from the crowd in an increasingly automated world and why not shying away from your flaws actually draws more customers your way. But before we get on to today's featured interview, the all-new Smart Agents magazine has launched and is full of insights and strategies designed to help real estate agents grow their businesses. Inside, you will find interviews and advice from leading real estate professionals, marketing tips to flood your business with leads, and even swipe and deploy files full of practical tools to enhance your business. Subscribe now to receive your copy of the printed magazine each month and instantly get access to our online agent community and members-only templates. Click the link in the episode description or go to smartagents.com/magazine. Also, if you enjoy this conversation, be sure to like and subscribe. The Smart Agents podcast streams on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and of course, YouTube. And finally, if you or someone else on your team has an incredible story or tips to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new stories to share. All right, let's get on to today's featured interview with Bryan Kramer. If you're interested in checking out either of Bryan's books, I have a link to his website in the episode description. All right, yeah, so if you could just introduce yourself to us a little bit, who you are and a little background on what you do.
Great. Yeah, I'm Bryan Kramer, and I am currently an executive coach. I work with directors and above or entrepreneurs, a lot of service-oriented people as well, lawyers, real estate, and service-driven businesses like marketing firms and agencies. I actually have had an agency for 22 years in San Jose, California, in Silicon Valley, which is where I'm born and raised. And in that time, we grew from two of us, my wife and I. We started it and grew it to 30 people, a $30 million agency, and worked with Cisco, Netflix, MasterCard, IBM, all kinds of really cool brands. It took us a while to get there, but we got there. And then I ended up becoming a speaker, which was ironically my degree in college. It just took me a while to actually catch up to my degree. And I ended up speaking on what the topic is that I think we're talking about here today, which is human to human. There's no B2B or B2C, it's H2H, human to human, which is a presentation I gave one day now in 2013. When I gave that one presentation at Bloomberg, although I've been giving it for years, but that one time, right audience, social media, everything's catching up. And all of a sudden it blew up because everybody shared it. It went over 24 million impressions globally. And that kind of sent really sent me into a whole different place of being able to talk about the thing I really love talking about. I wrote my second book, Shareology, How Sharing Powers the Human Economy, which then escalated into a global TED Talk that went viral, which I'm honored and humbled by. And then that graduated into me speaking and traveling 200 days a year and eventually running the business and running in airports. I burned out. I burned out massively, and I missed my kids' stuff and I missed everything. I eventually came home one day and I said to my wife, okay, well, I need to quit. Not you and me, but I need to leave the business and we need to exit. And I want to figure out my next thing. So we did. We exited over 6 months. I was overweight. I had diabetes. I lost 85 pounds. I lost diabetes. Took my kids to school and picked them up every day and changed my life. And then I ended up becoming an executive coach and love doing that every day, teaching people how to work hard, create what they want, but not have to burn out, that you can do it without that. So that's my story. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you coming to my own TED Talk.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned your real passion is the human to human businesses. And, so many times we always hear the B2C or the C2C and those types of things. And in real estate, it really is those human connections that propel you to having a successful career. So I want to talk to you about, just first off, kind of dive in a little bit on what is human to human, human to human business model or marketing that you really kind of keyed in on, and what makes that, such a passion of yours.
Yeah, well, it's the opposite of a lot of things that we tend to take on when we look at businesses that repel us and think, that business just doesn't resonate for me, and it's because we tend to migrate towards things that are much more human, which I kind of categorized, and I'll share that here so you don't have to read that part of the book, which is the three pillars that I outlined. It's the first one is simplicity. Simplicity, obviously, being the opposite of complexity, but simplicity in everything. Simplicity in the transaction. Simplicity in understanding what your brand sells. Simplicity in under the process that we work in. Simplicity in the language that we use, especially when you look at acronyms that we use. Like you look at real estate, there's so many acronyms that me, a consumer, or anybody might look at it and go, I have no idea what that means or how to even maneuver around that. So this more simplistic is really going to charge us to move forward. Also in marketing and sales too. I kind of didn't cover that, but it matters, obviously. And the second one is empathy. Empathy is, it seems like an easy thing. Why don't we just all have empathy towards each other? But when you look at a brand, when you look at a business and you think, why doesn't that business have empathy for its customer service? You might look at Amazon and go, they have no empathy, but they do. They are the opposite of that because they let you return almost every product easily. So that to me is empathy for the customer, where if I took my product back locally, and they might charge me a restocking fee. That's not empathy. That's recharging me. And so, you can think of all kinds of areas where empathy for the customer in travel, or empathy for the customer in understanding displacement. You're buying a new home and you're going to have to move from your old home. Now, all of a sudden, everything, I just did that. I moved to Lisbon, Portugal, and man, did I just go through a lot or lack of empathy in certain situations here. So it really shows up in a lot of different flavors. The last one is imperfection. Imperfection is the hardest one of all of it because we try to be perfect. And actually, opposite of that, we love and lean into people who are imperfect. When you look at like Dove, the brand, they celebrate the imperfection of skin. When you look at other brands like Red Cross, or you look at other things that where things are going to go wrong. I don't know any single business where something doesn't go the way that you hoped it would go. The challenge is, how do you actually meet that? How do you actually create something out of that? So the customer knows you still care about the imperfections that are going to happen in the middle of a sale or in the middle of purchasing a house. Did that person take care of me during the imperfection? So when you combine all three, these are the things that we tend to love about other people. Why shouldn't we love them about businesses too?
Right. Absolutely. So I kind of want to break those down a little bit, those three pillars really, because, first off, just the simplicity, like you mentioned, all the different acronyms. I know when I was going through my very first home purchase, it ended up turning into a short sale. And my wife and I had no idea what was going on because we weren't prepared for that. And it was, we had put the offer in on the house, and then all of a sudden, we get back, say, oh, sorry, this just went into a short sale. We might not get you even the ability to put an offer in for the next 6 months. And having our agent really be able to kind of explain all of that really kind of helped keep us motivated through the whole process. So tell me just a little bit about, some of the things that these real estate agents, as an entrepreneur, can do to help simplify processes and simplify that communication between their customers.
Yeah. So let's look at aside from the language is the big one. When you think about language in the middle of, you know, what different types of loans are, or what different types of, like you said, a short sale. Like, we take for granted that we understand what it means at a high level, but what does that mean for what I'm about to go through? And explaining things in terms that people can really understand. I think that the people that talk in simplicity are the ones that we really love doing business with. Like they really are the chat GPT of third grade level verbiage. So, there's all kinds of ways that you can deliver simplicity. My favorite way is taking something and looking at it from a different angle. Don't look at it from yours. Look at it from the customer's point of view. It's always the customer that's going to be seeing something, right? So if we could take, if I were to take, like any kind of can, not that I'm trying to show a brand, but any kind of can, and start to break down, like, what are the little nuances of the can? What did the instructions say? Now, I drank this whole thing, but I never actually read the entire bottle. Well, why would I, right? But if you actually look at it and you think about the craft of how it was put together, and look at how the ridges work, and how the massive amount of language is there. And then when you read it, what does it actually say? And what's the makeup of the ingredients? And oh my God, this bottle starts to become really overwhelming. Now, if we could take this bottle and actually break it down to have maybe some humor, and have some sense of understanding in simplicity of what is in this thing that I'm drinking, and how much sugar does it have? Well, this one has 0 because I actually bought it for that reason. But, those are the kinds of things that I care about as a customer. So think about that as you're looking at something. Turn it over and look at it with a new perspective. Perspective is simplicity.
Right. And I think that ties in really well to also having empathy for your customers, because what they're about to go into. So I think, when really thinking about all these pillars, they all really kind of lead one into the next, really well. And by understanding that, with that short sale, we had this idea in our mind that we were going to be leaving this rental that we had, we didn't want to rent anymore. We really wanting to move, but now all of a sudden we're going to have to figure out if we can get our lease for 6 months and all those types of things. So having that empathy for your customers, I think, kind of ties in really well to being able to see things from their perspective.
Absolutely. You nailed it. They all tie into each other. It's exactly right. Now you and I need to be on podcasts together moving forward. Podcasting. That's exactly right. I mean, you nailed it. It really does. You can have one without the other, but they're better together. And when you think about like a human relationship that you have, like a friend, and you think about what draws you into that relationship, more so when what makes a relationship even deeper. Like we have peripheral friends, we have close friends. Not all of us have a lot of close friends, but when we get to that, like that core, or you look at like the onion, you're peeling the onion, the old communications 101, but you're peeling it. What gets you to that soft core, juicy center of the onion? Well, it is these 3 ingredients. So when somebody is really, really simple in how they think or say or speak, or how they are in their relationship with you, do they listen to you as much as you listen to them? That's empathy. And then again, when you look at imperfection, I mean, there's a little Gaylord Fokker in all of us. And so we actually own it and think that, hey, I trip, you trip, let's laugh and have some fun. That's imperfection. That's just who we are. So when you start to like look at all those ingredients, or these 3 ingredients, and what draws us closer to a person, it's no different in business. We actually love working with people who we identify with. And these are the things that identify us, just like you said, and tie into each thing. And when you string them along, I'm willing to bet that we all have the closest relationships that tie into these 3 things.
Right. Absolutely. And then, speaking on the imperfection, I just think of, with my son, and we're very, very big into sports and things like that. And when you look at the athletes that maybe have those almost like folk kind of followings. They might be the guy that was maybe a little bit smaller or isn't, I mean, look at Tom Brady's career. For so long, he was this model of perfect athlete and perfect everything. And there's a lot of people that just didn't resonate with him. But then you get in our Jacksonville area, we've had a lot of, smaller quarterbacks that maybe didn't, weren't exactly the model of, perfection, but people loved them. And I think being able to recognize that a transaction in a deal or a house, there's going to be something is going to happen. It's never going to work out perfectly, but to be able to communicate that and understand that, and then be able to, maybe like you said, deal with it with a little bit of humor on the front end. Like, look, ideally everything's going to go great, but something is going to happen. I think kind of helps take the edge off when something does inevitably happen.
Totally. You're speaking my language. I mean, I had to look it up. I couldn't remember how tall he was, but John Stockton is one of my favorite basketball players. Shortest guy, not the shortest, but one of the shortest basketball players around, a Hall of Famer, and I loved watching him. I saw him in person once, and it was just like the dude could command a court like no other, and yet he stood, even though to you and I he's tall, but to them he was short, and he just completely owned the whole place. It was just like, how are you even managing this? And you're right, we all loved him even more so because of that. I can think of we can all think of so many situations where that thing that we thought would detract from actually defined them as the better than. It created them to be, and I'm going to call on Gaylord Fokker. I mean, that guy and the parents, we loved him, even though he screwed up everything. Like he lost the cat, he spray painted the tail, he lit the roof on fire, he hit a volleyball into his mother-in-law's face or sister-in-law's face. He crushed it when it came to screwing up, and yet we loved him more for it. And that is exactly what we love about humans when they actually do that kind of stuff, but they own it. He owned it. We all own it. That's the imperfection that we love about life.
Right. So when we are, kind of focusing on these three pillars, when it comes to the actual, marketing of our brands or our, services as a real estate agent, what kind of messaging or things can you do to make sure that people, whether it's a cold lead or somebody that knows you from, a referral or something like that, that you're making sure that you're doing the marketing that shows people that you are human? Because we all have the social media. Most people, when it comes to choosing an agent, they're already looking you up online before they even, probably you've even reached out to them maybe.
Yeah. One of my friends is an agent, and he's also he's also a DJ. And he's ran, I guess, his DJ business. It was one of the largest businesses in the Bay Area. He had something like 30 to 40 DJs underneath their business running all over up and down the coast. And when the pandemic hit, obviously it was a devastation to his business. He went and got his real estate license, and now he's crushing it because he's so freaking human. The dude, ran a DJ business. So he's very personal, very individualized. And what he did is he plays music at he sets up his stuff and he plays music at the houses on Saturdays.
Oh, wow.
And he weaved in his business into his other business. And on his business card, it actually says, here's the two things I do. It says I'm a DJ by night and real estate by day. And he doesn't hide it. He just puts it all into the thing that he does and says, this is who I am. And then he found a way to be creative with it. And when he sends out stuff, he says, what's your favorite music today? Or what's your favorite song? Or how can we, and he's made it personalized into what people already know him for, but the new people start to understand, wow, this could be fun. This makes it more human for people to do that. So find that little that little groove that makes you different through the humanness of what else you do, that people can find out about you, and know and come to love you for.
Right. I think that's really important. So many people, there's that misconception, or there's just that preconceived conception that people really don't want to work with a real estate agent. But if you show your human side and show the other things that interest you, you're not just that the used car salesman that's out there kind of trying to hunt you down and get you to buy whatever they're offering.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, who likes that? Raise your hand if you like that. If you're listening to this and you like that, we need to talk. We need to have a direct conversation right now. So, because that's not what anybody, when I get into like you said, a used car lot, and here they come, like, or any car lot for that reason, I'm like, oh, can't this just be easy? Can't it be simple? Can't they have empathy for me and understand, like, this is just going to be like remember Saturn, the Saturn car company? That was all three. That was simplicity, empathy, and perfection. And they clapped when you left they all got together and they clapped when the car left the lot. And it was one price. You didn't negotiate. This is just what the price is. Talk about simplicity. And the cars had, I forget, 3 or 4 flavors, and that was it. Now, when things went wrong, and they covered you automatically with a warranty for the next 5 years. You didn't have to negotiate that. They just did that. Normally, car companies don't go that far out. So they celebrated imperfection. Boom. This is what we could do. This is how easy it is. Just understand that. Now, if you want to do something like immediately, like how do you spot this stuff? Walk over to the wall, to a whiteboard, or if you still have a chalkboard, go for it. And draw everything that you're doing in sales and marketing up on a whiteboard. And then point to all the human interactions or the human touch points, and see how many of them are there. And then take a step back and go, now, how can we make this better? How can you make that more unique? How can you apply simplicity, empathy, and imperfection into those touch points? And if you just create a 1-degree shift in the ways that we've been talking about, like Saturn has, like my friend Rafi, the DJ, has, Amazon has, like all of these brands. I don't care if you're a real estate agent or you're a giant company, this applies to everybody. These are the things that will up-level your business.
Right. And then how important is it to be able to do that and to create those, personal relationships when we are in such a AI era, and, there's so much automation and everything going on now that, I know when I get a newsletter that has been created, you can read it and almost tell now, if you have any experience with like the chat GPTs or anything, you're like, oh, nope, that one's been written by a computer. But how important is it to have those, simplify things, show empathy, and then also, allow your human side to come out when you're doing that marketing, when things are so automated now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, you can tell. That's it right there. You shouldn't be able to tell. I'm an advocate for using it. I'm an advocate for using it as a yes and, not an or. So it shouldn't be that we're just using AI. It shouldn't be also now that we just use what we write, because there might be something better that it can inject into that you weren't thinking of. It's a yes and. And so now if you're a great writer and that's just like you write every day, I tend to love to write. I've lost it in the last 2 weeks, to be honest with you. But normally I write every single day. And I do love sometimes putting it into AI, and sometimes I don't, because I just like the humanness of it and what it says. But here's the test. If you're looking across the board on that whiteboard exercise that we talked about, and you're not seeing human interaction and human touch points, then that's where you're not adhering to what I think is going to eventually attract people, because I think human touch points is what's going to stand out. I believe here, let me put this even more simply. I believe that everybody's advantage right now is being human. Human is the competitive advantage. And where everyone's going to start using technology, you can start using things that like direct mail or sending somebody a thank you card, for God's sakes. Doing things that actually like once were like delivering milk door to door. Bell bottoms are back. I mean, like things are actually going to start to migrate into like what used to what became things that like were normal, like sending a thank you card, or now like owning a typewriter. It's going to be neat. It's going to be unique. It's going to stand out. So be human, and that will become your competitive advantage. Use technology as an assistance to that, not an or.
Absolutely. I mean, with the chat GPTs and the writing, I mean, I even personally will write the like the YouTube descriptions or something for the podcast episodes. And then I'll take that, throw it into chat GPT and see where, I could add something from. And I think they are great tools to enhance what you're already doing.
Totally. Absolutely.
So when it comes to, again, just, in the marketing and the what are some of the best ways that people can show off their human side when it comes to those cold leads and those people that don't know you and aren't a referral, or whether it's a product they don't have any experience using, that particular type of product. What are some of those other things that can show that you have that you're that human side, that you're not just the rigid kind of business out there?
Okay, so let me give you some really simple ones. Reply back. I'll send out a newsletter. Somebody writes to you. Reply back as a person, not the company. If you're on social media, reply back. Reply back as a person, not a brand. Take interest. This is the empathy side. Like for my newsletter, I would spend, I don't know, an hour to 2 hours every time I'd send out a newsletter creating one-off videos. On my iPhone, I just hit reply, do a 15-second video and say, hey, Joe, thanks for your message. It really resonated. I totally agree. And I'm looking forward to, engaging a little bit more as we go and sending it back. Dude, the response was amazing because they would just reply back and go, I can't believe you just did that. And sometimes they do it in video back, and then we go back and forth, and then it's like, oh, we're having a human conversation. Is that not what this is all about? So, that's what you want to do, is just like do things that are, personal, that really show that you are a human on the other side of what they think is just a wall of brand or a wall of corporate or a wall of automation. I mean, there's so many newsletters, especially in real estate and in financial right now that are regurgitated, meaning like they're written for you. They're part of the system that you bought, and you send them out. I know because I've consulted on them and I put them in place, and you send them out and they just go once every 2 weeks. You approve it and then it goes out, and it's just like it has the Happy New Year, it has the Merry Christmas, it has the I hope you have this wonderful holiday. It's all wonderful. But before it goes out, write a little sentence in there at the top that just says what you did last weekend. My talk about the fact that your buddy just rode in a Lisbon bike race and how neat it was that you got to experience that with him. Those are the things that separate your newsletter out from something else. I'm not saying write the entire newsletter, but just humanize it just a little bit. Just these little nuances will let people know that you are actually doing stuff that makes you different than every other thing that they're getting from every other real estate agent.
Right. And when you actually look at the amount of responses that you might get to one of those newsletters, it really isn't going to take all that much time to reply to them humanly. I mean, you might get a handful of responses, but if you take that little amount of time to respond, your conversion rate is going to go way up.
Amen. Amen. I don't know if I can even add to that. It's just, it's just going to go up because that's what happens. The law of reciprocity. When I respond back to you and you respond back to me, and we're in reciprocal relationship, then that's building the relationship. And now all of a sudden we have something to build on. But if I don't create that, then don't come crawling to me saying, I don't know how to build my business, because this is a very relationship driven business that we're all in, and that's what you got to do if you want to be a part of the relationship driven business.
Right. Well, tell us a little bit more about, your books and where people can get, more information about, your teachings and obviously, the talks that you do. So there's a lot that you have to offer. And this is a conversation that really could go on for hours, but don't want to take up much of your time.
Thank you. If you go to my website at bryankramer.com, Bryan with a Y, Kramer with a K, and my books are there, my newsletter, my blog, my speaking, all that stuff is there. And anybody that is listening that would like a free copy of the ebook, the digital copy of the ebook, I will give to your listeners if they want to email me in true human style at Bryan@bryankramer.com. Again, that's Bryan with a Y, not an I, and Kramer with a K. So Bryan@bryankramer.com. And if you just email me and just put your name, Michael, Walter, and book in the subject, and that's it. I'll send you back a book. And
I really appreciate it.
Really simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate it. And I think, by simplifying those types of things and, creating human connections, I think it really also allows agents and brokers to really enjoy their business too, because they get to, create really long-lasting relationships with their clients.
Like I said before, you and I should be just doing these together, as you're like my brother from another mother when it comes to H2H. And I really appreciate that. I'm glad to know there's other people out there that think that way.
So, well, I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for all the great questions.
I want to thank Bryan for taking the time to talk with us today, and also really believe in the idea that as the world becomes more automated, those who embrace the more personal forms of communication and share their human sides will ultimately stand out from the crowd. So once again, if you think you or someone else on your team has an incredible story or real estate tips to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.